Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining us on Facebook Live tonight. Really excited to have you here. I'm extremely excited to have Victor Dedaj here tonight. He's both an author and entrepreneur, as well as a success coach. I think there's a lot we can learn from Victor, and I'm super excited to have him here. So thanks again for coming on, Victor. Really appreciate your time.
Oh, my pleasure, Kyle. Great to be here.
Awesome, Victor. So just to get started, can you tell us a bit about yourself and what your background is and how you got started?
Oh, absolutely. Well, I'm a lifelong New Yorker, born and raised in New York City. I worked in the corporate world for many, many years, close to 2 decades, and I got let go 5 years ago. And I figured it was time for a change because I actually had tired of working for the corporate world. So I'd always wanted to work for myself. So I decided to go into becoming an entrepreneur. And I went through the learning process, and I've been doing it the last 5 years, and I absolutely love it.
That's awesome. Okay. So you ended up getting laid off, and then you just decided, hey, this is it. I'm done with corporate. I'm just going to work for myself.
Yeah, absolutely. Because one of the things about working in the corporate world now, again, I worked for a lot of years and I learned a lot of great things. I met a lot of great people. I still have a lot of good friends I keep in touch with from my corporate days. But one of the things I got a little tired of was the lack of freedom I had. I couldn't take vacations when I wanted to. I couldn't leave the office when I wanted to. Even if I finished early, they want you there till 5 o'clock. So I felt like I was kind of limited. Like right now, if I want to end the day early, I can end the day early. If I want to go on a
Right.
trip, I can go on a trip. So there's a lot more flexibility and freedom with the lifestyle that I have.
Definitely, that makes a lot of sense. So, what was the first thing you started to do as an entrepreneur? What was the first business idea, or how long did it take you to become successful?
Well, it takes a while. I mean, number one, I took some time off first. I took a few months because when you've been working for so many years, there's actually your brain gets tired. So I took some time off
Right.
first, and then I just started learning. Now, unfortunately, one of the things I didn't have when I started was I did not have a mentor. And honestly, for those of you that are starting off, wanting to work online, doing some sort of entrepreneurial stuff, get yourself a mentor because they're going to save you so much time, so much aggravation. They're going to prevent you from making so many mistakes. Don't look at the cost because they're going to save you so much more money in the long run with the way they're going to teach how to do things. Because I made so many mistakes going on. I did stuff like just posting my links all over my profile, and
Mhm.
I started spamming my links to people who didn't know me. Very few people have responded to me. Some people blocked me. So once I got mentors, they told me, no, that's not the way you do it, Victor. You got to build relationships with people. You need to give them value, stuff like that. So
Right.
once I got some mentors, things started getting a little bit easier. So, so it really depends on a bunch of things. Number one, do you get yourself a mentor? Are you willing to put in the time and the effort? So it varies with everyone. So it took me a good couple of years,
Okay.
yeah,
Awesome.
before I started
So
getting some good results. Yeah.
definitely, that makes sense. Definitely it's always a grind, and I think that's one thing a lot of people underestimate is that it doesn't just happen overnight. You really have to put in the work, and you have to be consistent. And consistency over long term, creates results. So that's awesome. Thank you for sharing that.
Oh, you're
So
welcome.
Victor, my question for you is, I'm sure a lot of people are wondering, how do you go about finding a mentor? How do what's the process like that for someone who's never had a mentor before?
Well, here's the thing. You can first, if you're on Facebook, for example, just start becoming friends with people who are entrepreneurs. And you might want to ask them, who's your mentor? Do you like the
Hmm.
person? Is the person a good mentor? Ask around, find out who's someone they recommend. And maybe two or three or four people will recommend one person, then you may want to reach out to that person. Find
Right.
out someone who's not just who knows what they're doing, but also someone who wants to help people. Not everyone who's very successful is good. Some people, most of them are good and ethical, but there are some out there that are not so ethical. So it's also important that the person is ethical and wants to help you and wants your best for you. So those are the two things I would look for: someone who's been successful and someone who cares about helping people out. So ask
Definitely.
around.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to go about it for sure. But okay, awesome. And so Victor, so I know you said when you first started, it wasn't easy. You made a lot of mistakes. Were there, if you could go back in time, what would you do differently now to kind of speed up the process, or what do you think are some common mistakes that other people make when they first get started?
Well, I think we hinted at a couple of things. Number one, I would try to avoid instant gratification. And I
Right.
think we live in an age where we expect results immediately. And I guess it's because the way technology is right now, because you could push a button, you could get answers to anything. Whereas 100 years ago, we were an agrarian society. So we understood that the farmer had a plant, then cultivate for like 6 months, and then harvest. He understood that it would take some time before the harvest comes. Now everyone wants to plant and harvest, but it's going to take some time. So you hinted before, you need to build that foundation. You need to, personal development is really, really important. Jim Rohn said, I'd rather work harder on yourself than on your job. If you work hard on your job, you can make a living. If you work hard on yourself, you can make a fortune. Because when you work on your personal development, you get good at it. Even if you go join a company that goes under, maybe the government shuts it down, you can take your talent elsewhere. But if you join a company and you don't develop yourself and the company goes down, you're in a lot of trouble. So your personal development is very important. You build that foundation, and you can take it anywhere. And sometimes it could take a while. It might take 2, 3, 4 years. It's okay, because the bamboo tree will take 3 to 4 years to build its roots. It's underground. It looks like it's not doing anything. And then in the 4th year, it sprouts up like 90 feet.
Right.
But it's been building its roots. So I would say, yeah, you want to get some results, but it's more important to build those deep roots, build that foundation, develop yourself, and work on doing things right. The results will eventually come. There's a saying that you can't do the right thing consistently over a sustained period of time and not get results. Now, it may not happen your first week. It may not happen a month. Maybe they take 6 months, a year or two. Don't worry if you don't get results. Work on the person who you focus on, becoming the person you want everyone to join. So develop yourself and be patient with yourself. And that's the thing. If you have a mentor and your mentor's guiding, your mentor can say, hey, this is working well. This is not working well. I suggest you do this. And just be patient. Just keep doing the right things, and you will get the results.
That makes a lot of sense for sure. I completely agree with that. And yeah, I think that's really it. Just really being consistent, sticking with it, like we said before. But okay, awesome. So what are I know you mentioned mentors again, Victor. Who are some of your mentors?
All right. So some of my mentors, I would say one is Jermaine Steele. We have weekly calls every week. I've been with him like the last 3 years. I learned a lot from that guy. He's been a very good mentor to me, and he's always constantly pointing me in the right direction, showing him how I can improve myself. So he'll say, hey, Victor, this is good. This is working. Now you might want to consider doing this. Another one of my mentors is Nate O'Brien, who's a very successful e-commerce person. I've learned a lot from him. And another one of my mentors is Jack Canfield, who many of you know as the author of the Chicken Soup for the Soul series and the Success Principle, which I highly recommend if you want to become successful. I'm being trained as a trainer by Jack Canfield right now, and I learned a lot from him. He's an incredible trainer. So I would say those are my 3 main mentors right now, and they're all great guys, and I learn a lot from them. You don't need to get 3 like I do. I think if you can get 1, that'll be more than enough. But I think I learned something different from each one of those guys.
Definitely. What do you think some of the best advice you ever received was?
Well, again, here's the thing. Like at the end of each year, the one thing I learned is, okay, you've done some good things, but you have to keep growing. Obviously, you got to be consistent. You got to be focused. You got to keep doing those things. But at the end of each year, it's like saying, okay, what do you need to do to grow more? Because things always change. There are people always competing against you. So if you're not growing, you're dying. So like sometimes the mentors say, okay, you've done this year. For the upcoming year, let's focus on doing this. This is the thing you need to do to get yourself to the next level, because no matter how good you are, you always have to keep growing. The guys making 5, 10, 20 million, they have mentors. So they're saying, you had a great year. You want to get to the next level. This is the things you need to do. So each year they're saying, okay, this is what you need to do. Maybe, I needed to host some events. Okay, so I hosted events. So you got to write a book or create new products. So there's always things you need to do. Host webinars. So you always got to figure out what do I need to do next. So those are things my mentors teach me each year.
Okay, for sure. I think that makes a lot of sense. So awesome. So what do you think as far as skills? What are the most important skills someone can develop if they want to be an entrepreneur or they want to start working for themselves?
Well, again, so there are several things. Number one is, as I said before, you got to focus on personal development. You got to watch videos, motivational, inspirational videos by successful people, read books, and surround yourself with successful people, with positive people, because Jim Rohn said you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. So if you spend if your five closest friends are all unsuccessful and broke, you're not going to be a multimillionaire, for example. If you want to be more successful, you need to surround yourself with successful people, which is why I highly recommend you go to events. Because when
Hmm.
you go to events, you're going to surround
Huge.
yourself with successful people. You're going to learn things from them, and you're going to be surrounded by that energy. So people who go to events can tell you it changes people's lives. So personal
100%.
development is huge. And, like I said, get the mentor, be focused. Focus on one thing when you're starting off. Like
Right.
one mistake
Right.
I made was I was like in four companies at once when I started off, and I made money in none of them. But that's just what happens. It's because when you try to do too much at once, you don't know what you're doing. You're going to get paralyzed because if you're in four companies, you're like, you wake up, you're saying, should I work on this today, work on this company? And you just get hit with paralysis and you do nothing in none of them. So instead of having multiple streams of income, you have multiple streams of debt because you're paying money in each of them, but you're
Right.
making money in none of them. So focus on one thing at a time. So if you look at, like the hourglass, so if you watch it go down, it goes one grain at a time. So focus on one thing at a time. Focus is one of the most important things because as a newbie, you're going to get distracted by so many things. It's amazing what distracts you. And even when you've been doing this for like 2, 3, 4 years, one thing that could distract you is social media. It's like I
Right.
could spend all day liking and commenting on people's posts and stuff like that. And then, whereas maybe I should be shooting a video, writing a blog post, or creating a product. So sometimes you need to shut off Facebook, although not while you're watching this interview we're doing, but maybe
Right.
afterwards. But sometimes you need to shut down and focus on the things you need to do because you got to too often people get distracted by what are minor things, whereas they need to focus on the things that's going to help them become more successful and make more money. So again, so focus, personal development, and be consistent. Show up every single day. Don't show up once or twice a week and then disappear for a week. Because if you're inconsistent in everything, you're not going to get the results. You need to show up every single day. Consistency is important. It's like if I want to have muscles like Arnold Schwarzenegger, I can't say I went to the gym twice and I didn't get I don't have the muscles he has. I need to
Right.
go several times a week over the course of many months and work out consistently. That's how I'm going to have those kind of muscles. So with anything, you have to be consistent. Very often, people just show up once every 2 or 3 days, take off 3 or 4 days, and they're wondering why they're not getting results. You have to be consistent because there's something that's called the compound effect. Because you
Hmm.
do a lot of little things consistently, you won't see results immediately, but over the long run, you will. So, for example, if I'm trying to lose weight, so if I cut down on what I eat and exercise more, I may not drop a lot of weight immediately, but if I do it over the course of many months, I can drop 20, 30 pounds. Conversely, if I start eating a little more, I won't put on that weight in 1 or 2 days, but if I start eating a little bit more and I start eating unhealthy foods, I'm gonna put on 30 pounds over the next few months. So that's why that's what happens to a lot of people. They have unhealthy lives, but it doesn't bother them because they don't have anything bad happening to them. So if you have a heart attack after eating a Big Mac, you would never eat a Big Mac again. But
Right.
because of the compound effect, you don't see it over the course until the course of 10, 20, 30 years, and you're eating consistently bad food. So with everything. So if you're doing the right things, yeah, you may not see results immediately, but if you're doing them day in and day out, I guarantee you over the course of 6 months to a year, you're going to see results.
Definitely. For sure. I definitely agree with that. I definitely think consistency is always key in, all things for sure. So, okay. So, Victor, I know you mentioned, books are helpful. I know you mentioned, going to see, conferences and being around other successful people and, getting a mentor, which, 100% agree is all great things.
Mm.
You already mentioned mentors, but what books would you recommend if you could only recommend a few books to people?
Okay, there are a number of them. Well, for those starting out, I would always recommend Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. It's a classic, and there's always a lot of great things in there. If you've never read it, I highly recommend it. I also recommend How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. Even though it's a book about making friends, but when you become an entrepreneur, a big part of it is building relationships, learning
Right.
how to talk to people. And it'll teach you need to be focused on the other person, not on yourself. Many marketers make the mistake of just telling them, my company's great, all this stuff, that's why you should join, instead of finding out, what do you want? What are your needs? Because there's a saying, people don't care about how much you know until they know how much you care. So you got to show them that you're interested in them. If you do that, you're going to make a lot more friends than if you just talk about yourself. Because, you go on a date with someone who just talks about themselves, it's going to get boring after a while. You will now want a second date. So
No.
it teaches you how to focus on the other person, because when they see you're interested in them, they're much more likely to like you and much more likely to be open to anything you have to teach them. I recommend also the Success Principles by Jim Rohn. I mean Jack Canfield. Any book by Brian Tracy is good, like Maximum
Right.
Achievement. Tracy has some great books. Anything by Jim Rohn is going to be pretty good. The Compound Effect by Darren Hardy is good. The Slight Edge by Jeff Olson. I could just, there's just so many out there. So I'll just recommend those. Oh, and The Power of Consistency by Walden Long, a really great book. This guy was a guy who was a career criminal who changed his life while in prison. And he had to wait 7 years before he got out, but he changed his life. And then when he got out, within a year, he was able to get a job. He became the number one salesman in the air conditioning company, and then he left to start his own company, and he's become a successful businessman and motivational speaker. So I highly recommend that book, because this guy was a lifelong criminal who became a successful businessman because he changed his mindset and approach to life. So it shows that anyone can be successful.
That's awesome. I haven't read that one. I've read the other ones, but I haven't read that one, so I definitely want to check that out. But definitely. Awesome. And then Victor, you're writing your own book, right? You have your own book coming out soon?
Well, actually, I have a book that's out called "You Can Become Successful." So if those who are interested, they can get it on Amazon, paperback or Kindle. So in that, I share some of the things I've learned that's helped me become successful and help other people become successful. So I share a lot of tips. Some of the things I've talked about tonight, like focus, consistency, being persistent, never giving up, getting a mentor. I'll talk about meditation, visualization, affirmations, how to overcome procrastination. Again, procrastination is a huge killer of success. So many people procrastinate on doing things. And what happens when you procrastinate is it builds up inside you. It becomes this big psychological burden. And we have all these undone when you have these list of undone things in your mind, it paralyzes you. You don't know what to do because you have so many undone things. So there's a saying is, you need to complete the past to embrace the future. So if you have all these things you haven't done, you need to focus on getting those things done. So if you need to you have a bunch of tasks to do, work on them ASAP, because if you don't, it's going to build up on you. Brian Tracy has a book called Eat That Frog, and it talks about procrastination. One thing Brian recommends is what he calls eating that big frog. Work on that biggest task you need to. And because a lot of people, they wait for the end of the day to work on the biggest task. And the thing is, the longer you wait, the more it eats up at you. But if you take care of the biggest task at the beginning of the day, after you finish that, everything becomes much easier. So whatever it's, make a list of tasks you need to finish and review it at night. And then in the morning, when you look at them, focus on that most important task. When you get that out of the way, everything else that's remaining will be much easier.
That makes a lot of sense. That's great. So, and you said just on Amazon is the best way to pick up the book?
Yeah, Amazon. Yeah. So again, it's called You Can Become Successful. You can get it. Yeah. So paperback or Kindle for those who like Kindle. So it's available in both versions, and it's a pretty quick read, and people enjoyed the book. And I hope people listening will pick up a copy, because I think you'll get a lot out of it, and you'll get a lot of nice tips like what I'm sharing with you tonight. I go into a little more detail into it. And another thing about authoring is I am co-authoring a book with Jack Canfield, one of my mentors. He has a book coming out this summer called Success Breakthrough. So I have a chapter in that book. So that should be coming out probably July or August. So in the next month or two. So once that comes out, I'll give you info on that. So I'm excited about that too. I'm excited to be working with Jack, because he's an incredible teacher. And he's actually one of the most down-to-earth guys you'll ever meet.
Really? Okay. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I love all his stuff. He's awesome. That's really congratulations on writing the book with him. That's awesome.
Thank you.
All right, Victor. So yeah, thank you so much for coming on. I know I learned a lot. I hope everyone else did as well.
My pleasure.
I appreciate it, Victor. So what's the best way for people to get in touch with you or to learn more about what you do?
Sure. All right. So, they can look me up on Facebook, facebook.victordedaj.com. They can contact me at victordedaj@victordedaj.org. And I have a website, victordedaj.com. So, but if you want to message me on Facebook or send me a message on victordedaj@victordedaj.org, and I'll be more than glad to respond to you.
Awesome, Victor. Well, hey, thanks again for coming on. Thanks everyone for tuning in and watching, and I appreciate all the comments. There's a bit of delay, so we weren't able to get to them all, but we really appreciate you, and I hope everyone has a great night.
Oh, thanks for having me. Have everyone have yourself a good night. You too, Kyle.
Take it easy, Victor. Thanks again.
You too.
Bye.
Bye bye.